presentation together, and I just decided, you know what, this morning I decided I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to come up here, I'm going to share my story, I'm going to share myself, and whatever comes out, because when I try to structure things, it just, nothing really comes out the way I intended it to. So, first of all, I just want to say I'm really grateful to be up here. Me being up here is just living proof that literally anything is possible. I'm going to share a little bit of my background, my history, and the kind of significance of this day. October 19th. I was sharing about this a little bit earlier with Susan and Chris, and it's kind of freaky actually, because I just literally thought about this. October 19th, 8 years ago, I literally just got out of court, and I just found out that I'm going to be facing 5 years in state prison. And so I just had become a convicted felon. I'm 21 years old. And I was at a point where I literally have to involuntarily drop out of college. And it didn't really matter. I haven't been in class, and I don't even know how long. And my life was going in a downward spiral really, really quickly. In fact, October 17th, 2005, I was planning to kill myself. And somehow by, I don't know, grace of God or whatever it was, I found myself, in a prison cell. And I have developed an addiction that was more powerful than anything I've ever experienced in my life. I was addicted to heroin, and it was devastating. It was a viral spiral it was absolutely crazy. And I'm going to stop and just say I'm super nervous to be up here. Share my story openly with you guys. Before Empower Network, I would not have been able to do this. I've held on to a lot of this stuff that I've dealt with and that I've went through throughout my life. I was kind of ashamed to share it, because who wants to hear about, my college dropout experience, or the fact that I've been, I've sat in Rikers Island, or the fact that I shot heroin, into my arms, or some of the stuff that I went through. Who wants to hear about that type of stuff? And the reality is that I know that some of you out there, need to hear the type of struggle that some people have been through, and the type of struggle that I've been through, to get through whatever you're going through. I know that every story is different, every person's different, we're all going through different things, right? But our story is our story, and it's where we came from. And I'm really honored to be up here. Again, October 19th is just like, I woke up this morning with this anxiety. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta be on stage. I'm so nervous, and I just realized it's just like some things are like deep-seated, and dates and times in our life. And I just realized 8 years ago today, I'm literally where I was, and this is where I'm at. I guess, I'm not going to do my presentation, but a lot of folks, they ask me, so what changed? How did you become so successful on Facebook? How did you become so successful as an internet marketer? How did you go from being a convicted felon and college dropout to becoming a multiple six-figure income earner on the internet? How did you start creating your own products? Where did you gain this knowledge from? You must be lucky, right? And the reality is that I'm not lucky. And I wasn't born with internet skills. It's something I learned over time. And it has been overnight. It's been, unless you consider 8 years an overnight situation, but for me, 8 years is a pretty long night, right? Over the last couple of years, I've been super fortunate to be able to do some of the things that I get to do. To travel, to live my dreams. I literally, this past winter, I got to live for 5 months in Costa Rica. Just absolutely living my dream. And last year, traveling across the country, I got in my car. It was actually August of last year. I got in my car and I drove from California to New York. But I didn't drive straight across. It's kind of like a business, it's kind of like a zigzag. I drove through 22 states in 32 days.
Wow.
It was absolutely remarkable, right? And so what really changed? What changed was my habits. It wasn't necessarily the skill sets. It wasn't, some wisdom that came from somewhere. It was just my habits. And I actually just talked about this recently in a blog post. And I'm gonna share some of those habits with you guys. Is that okay? You guys want to hear some of that? So my 4 habits of my success, or the transformation that I went through. Number 1, mentorship. For me, this is like super powerful. Dave Sharp actually mentioned this gentleman on stage last night. Some of you are familiar with Jeffrey Combs. And, right, some of you know who Jeffrey Combs is. I met Jeffrey Combs in 2007 when I was first getting into this industry, into this space. And one of the most important people that I met in my journey. Somebody that was openly sharing their story of recovery and making a transformation and a change. And somebody that introduced me to one of my first mentors, a guy by the name of Chad Wade. And mentorship is, and I heard that you say, your sponsor is not kind of the end all be all. For me, the reason that I absolutely love my mentors is because of the tough love they gave me. It wasn't about, babying me. It was about giving me the stuff, the real stuff, not buying my bullshit, not dealing with my you don't understand my situation stuff. Right. Because I can tell you, when I got involved in this industry, when I got started, I was probably the same as a lot of you. I was excited. I just told my parents that I'm going to go become a millionaire, and I'm going to do it by next month. And I told Chad, I'm like, hey, just watch out. I'm going to be the top guy. I'm going to be on stage, and just watch out. Just watch out. And, of course, it didn't happen, right? It took some time, and it took some energy, and it took some learning some new skills, but really it was habits that changed. And I started to be open to learning. And today I get to train and to teach and to be a mentor to others. And it all starts with being a student. It all starts with being, mentored by somebody else and being able to open up and listen. And one of the qualities that I have that I love is that I'm a really good listener. And I really listen to people. I was listening to Laura last night with being selfless and sharing your story, or being selfish and not sharing your story. And I'm not a selfish person, but at the same time, I was afraid to share my story for the longest time. And I didn't realize how I'm actually hurting people by not sharing my true self, my story, who I am, and what I've been through. Not sharing the fact that I had when I started, I was all excited, and that excitement drove me into the ground being clean and sober for years. And I remember being in Florida and having a couple of years clean, and literally driving myself into the ground financially. I've been in a business for a couple of years, and on the surface, I looked like everything was okay. I was going to my meetings in the company that I was in. I was wearing a suit every Thursday night, going to my hotel meetings, and I was showering in the gym. All right, so I was squatting in the house. I couldn't pay the water bill. I couldn't pay the electric bill, but I was using the little money I had to buy leads and to build my business. And on the surface, it was like, this mask that I was wearing of who I was, but really on the inside, it was just like, it was a mess. And what I love about Empower Network is it's totally different here, right? I can totally be myself, I can totally be open, totally be honest. So good mentorship habit number one is what changed. Number two, time management. How many of you think Blog Beast is freaking badass? Blog Beast helps with time management. Time management is something that I know I've struggled with. I'm sure a lot of other people have struggled with as well. Learning where to put our time and how to manage our time. And I can tell you guys in the beginning when I got involved in Power Network, just back in June, I have another business that I run, and I didn't have a lot of time. And I'm just going to give you a couple nuggets here with your business. Is I only had about an hour and a half a day to get started in this business, and I had to do it part-time. And it's so important that 80% of the time I focused on what Laura was saying last night, taking massive action. Right? There's different steps that you take in this business, and it's not going to happen overnight, but you have to take massive action. And 80% of the time I was focusing on income-producing activities like talking to people on Facebook, connecting with people on Facebook, because that's the quickest way that I see people succeed, is just reaching out and touching people. Until you learn how to do some of the stuff that you learn in the 15K formula, and you learn in the Costa Rica Intensive and Master's course. And I'm going to encourage every single one of you, if you don't own the products, you just buy them. Just commit to being full force in this business, to being all in. Not just financially, but just emotionally being completely in this business. And the other 20% of your time, you're spending learning. So 80% of the time, I'm spending taking massive action. And sometimes in the beginning, when I first got started, it was complete ignorance on fire. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing it. I was just excited. I was just, whatever it took, I was just making it happen. So, good mentorship, time management. The third habit that changed for me was money management. This is a tough one for a lot of people, especially people that are entrepreneurial, like myself, like all of us in here, right? I remember that when I first got started making a lot of money online, or just in general offline, just having the tendency to just go out and spend it pretty much right away. I remember in 2008 I had one of my first, or 2007 I had one of my first big months in the industry, and I went and just splurged and spent this. Like I made $30,000 one month, and then all of a sudden the next month I have nothing again. And running myself into severe credit card debt. And living kind of month to month, and just constantly having the dream that I built up that kind of dies down. And money management is a habit that I changed over time. That as you're going, you got to remember that the legacy that what you're building here is very, very important. And one of my mentors, one of my silent mentors, I guess you could say, his name is Gary Vaynerchuk. You guys heard of Gary? He always says that your legacy is greater than your currency. What are you building? What are you here for? And I apply this to money management. What are people going to say once you're gone? If we fast forward 100 years from now, what are people going to say about you? And that's kind of what you're building. It's your legacy. And you can go out there and splurge, making a little bit here and there, or you can start really building like for a greater reason. Debbie talked about her why, and I think that's super important. You got to have a reason that you're doing this on a daily basis. And it kind of leads into my fourth habit. My fourth habit is personal development, and it's probably one of the most important habits that I've changed from 8 years ago to today. Is constantly doing personal development, constantly reading good books, constantly putting good stuff in so that good stuff comes out. I train my team on a weekly basis, and in order for me to train my team, I got to constantly be applying some of the things that I'm telling them to do. I'm a bad role model if I'm not doing the things that I'm telling other people to do. That's how I feel about it anyway. And in the beginning, I just became insatiable about it. I read books, I listened to audios, and in the beginning, that whole time management thing, it was like 80% take massive action, 20% learning. It was more like 90% learning, 10% taking massive action. and my bank account kind of reflected that. But in retrospect, I'm grateful for that habit that I've developed. Today being able to, making sure that I'm reading the books that I should be reading, listening to the audios that I should be listening to, instead of turning on the radio or turning on the news, constant negative news, CNN. I personally don't do it. We like watching the news. I know it's on 24/7 in my family's household, but it's not something that I choose to participate in. So, there's a lot of other things that I could attribute to the success that I've had over the last several years. But really, like I said, there's different skill sets that you can learn. There's different different things that you can pick up on and become good at. But at the end of the day, for me, my habits are essentially what have allowed me to be here on stage sharing my story with you, to be up here and to be sharing myself. So, guys, with that, thanks a lot for hearing me out.